Right, being in hell, censorship by selecting what you are told can manipulate the masses to drink polluted water and enjoy it. Well, that is the boast of the protocols of the learned elders of Zion, that they would do. And no point asking the 100 million Christians killed in Russia alone, they are all dead. So I'll point out how astronomy software and Edwin Hubble's dilemma proved to his horror creation. No Bible required. Two competing views, the original geocentric solar system, the planets revolve around the Earth, or the Copernicus heliocentric sun at the center of the solar system. The sun rotates around the Earth and the planets rotate around the sun. But what we have protecting the Earth are its gigantic magnetic poles, and Jupiter's magnetosphere reaches the Earth. Its gravity shield protects the Earth from being hit by asteroids and comets. Hard to find any more on the internet because it proves creation. And whatever language that is, it actually looks Polish. You get the drift. I now address as Yah the geocentric position of the Earth in the solar system, because Earth is the center of the universe. You've heard Yah say this over and over. The Earth was created first, and yes, of course, it's the center. In the creation account, the Earth was created at the beginning, then the sun, and then the stars and moon. All of the universe was stretched out in all directions. I will get to that directly. Now, in the next slide is the position of the sun and moon on Julian day number 666666.66666, which was March the 27th in the year 288 BC. And we see the birth of myself in St. Margaret's Maternity Hospital. The moon, sun, Trinity, 8,888 nautical miles. So how can this be? Well, Daniel predicted that the little horn would speak marvelous things and was a man. This man destroys the religions. 3 horns plucked up by the roots. Then he is made known and recognized as God in the flesh. Below is the position of the sun and moon on Julian day number 6666.66, March 27th, 288 BC. Again, we see the birth of myself in St. Margaret's Maternity Hospital. So triangulating there, you have the Trinity with the sun and the moon and the hospital. And the length of the 3 sides is 8,888 nautical miles. As Yah says, it's quite simply absolute. There's little old New Zealand there between the latitudes, 888 miles apart. And again, 888 is Jesus in Greek gematria. I am the Alpha and the Omega. It's all to do with the Greek alphabet and its number values. Iesus, or Jesus, being 888. This distance here, just 2 legs, is 5547.5 nautical miles. 5547 in the Greek concordance, Christos, anointed, that is the Messiah, an epithet of Jesus Christ. Again, this is the date, March 27th, 2888 BC, sun to the moon location, and my birth location at St. Margaret's Maternity. The 5 or the 0.5 is always Abba, the Father, in the Greek concordance. Now, the book of Enoch was banned from the Bible. It predates all books, as Enoch was the father of Methuselah and was instructed how to build the altar to the Lord in Egypt. So this is the altar to the Lord, the Great Pyramid in Egypt, at the center of the earth-land mass. The earth being the center of the universe. Later, the view from the earth through the eyepiece of the Hubble telescope at Mount Wilson, proved Albert Einstein's theory of the speed of light was wrong, that is, it is a constant. He realized the speed of light was not fixed, but was speeding up throughout the universe, concluding it was speeding up as it spread out in all directions from the Earth, forming concentric rings 250 million light years apart. But the redshift showed the light was stationary and the rings were the same distance apart. The problem was that what they saw was a universe fixed like a snapshot of creation, light stationary, with the redshift showing faster light and nothing in between, each onion ring of galaxies. Yet in fact, they were seeing the redshift, but it was all fixed. Hubble had invited Einstein to visit and look at what he had discovered. This odd view of the galaxies destroyed the expanding universe idea because it was not moving outwards. It was frozen in space and time. Therefore, the varying red colours indicated the galaxies were moving, yet they were not. How could that be, that these vast numbers of galaxies were in layers like onion rings, each layer as each were 250 million light years apart? The observation revealed each ring was the same distance apart, like a growing onion, which instantly grows to full size, reaching the outer ring at the same time as the inner ring. The onion rings are the same thickness as it grew from the center, each ring building a layer at the same time. Why? The earth is the location of the altar to the Lord and is the center of creation. In 1923, Edwin Hubble discovered, he was horrified to discover the earth is the center of the universe. So, invited by Hubble, Einstein visited Mount Wilson Observatory. He looked at what Hubble had observed. After peering through the eyepiece of the telescope, he remarked he had made the biggest mistake of his life. He saw the 7 rings of redshift galaxies, each 250 million light years apart, each the same distance apart, like the growth of an onion, each ring the same age, as if viewing from the earth in all directions, layered like the layers of an onion. What this should have told them, if they were 250 million light years from each other, then as each were the same age, why were they the same distance apart? Bottom line, created with 7 layers equal to each other. So it was January 29th, 1931, Albert Einstein, and then the foremost astronomer Edwin Hubble settled into the plush leather seats of a sleek Pierce Arrow touring car for a visit to Mount Wilson in Southern California. Edwin Hubble was much distressed as he had proven the Earth was the center of the universe and Einstein was wrong about the speed of light. Such a condition would imply that we occupy a unique position in the universe. But the unwelcome supposition of a favoured or special location must be avoided at all costs. Such a favoured position, of course, is intolerable. Moreover, it represents a discrepancy with the theory, because the theory postulates homogeneity. These quotes certainly suggest an almost desperate attitude on Hubble's part, that his data had led him to an unpalatable conclusion that we were near the centre of the universe and that to avoid this conclusion, Hubble concocted the cosmological principle and other rescuing devices to avoid this conclusion. These quotes seem to live down to the lowest expectations of many creationists, confirming many of their suspicions about modern cosmology. In other words, the current agenda remains the same, and that agenda is that the universe is not a creation and the Earth is not the centre of it, or is it the oldest in the universe, nor is there anything special or unique about the Earth. Who would dare to think such a thing? That would make human beings rather special, wouldn't it? Can't have that. $250 million light years is an easy calculation at the speed of light into years. And there we have our number 1471 with 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18 zeros after it. Therefore, 7 layers are the same age. Like the onion, each layer is the same as one another, not 7 times, because the 7 layers were created at the same time. And again, we can find our 1471 that we're all familiar with in Luke 2:5, King James, to be taxed with Mary, his espoused wife, being great with child. And the great with child is the 1471. Now, that short verse has a English or a simple gematria of 580 multiplied times 7, because we're talking about 7 layers, equals 4060, and that takes us over to Mark 12:1, reading, "And he began to speak unto them by parables, or marashals. A certain man planted a vineyard and set," and there's the number listing 4060, "an hedge about it, and digged a place for the wine fat, and built a tower, and let it out to husbandmen, and went into a far country," the far country being Australia. So 250 million years again is an easy calculation, and that gives us the 1471 number. To be great with child from Luke 2:5. Now going back to the times the 7 gives us 4060. This is really interesting. Look at this in Hebrew. A feminine of 4055, properly extension, height or breadth, also a measure, hello, including its standard, hence a portion as measured, or a vestment, specifically tribute as measured, garment, measure. Now remember, this is all talking about Yar, Mary being great with child, garment, measure, stature, tribute, wide, and going back to further expand on the Greek 4060, which we saw briefly was set, it's from 4012 and 5087 to place around, by implication, to present, bestow upon, hedge round about, put on upon, set about, a putting all around, decorating oneself with, wearing, which is what you do with a garment, hello, in the previous Hebrew 4060, and measuring. What's Yah been doing all these years but measuring his creation? Now, the belief is that after Einstein met with Edwin Hubble at Mount Wilson, January 31st of 1931, Einstein was so impressed by Hubble's evidence of an expanding universe, he renounced his belief in a static universe and was an immediate convert. Hubble showed Einstein photographic plates of distant galaxies, then only known as nebula, which showed that the farther away the nebula was from Earth, the redder it was, a phenomena called redshift. As a distant galaxy recedes away, its light waves get stretched out and white light takes on a reddish hue. The farther away, the faster it recedes, and the redder the galaxy looks. However, Yah says, the moving away is not logical, as each ring is the same distance from the next out to 7 rings like an onion. This means it was created in place. So not your expanding universe as they were, oh, it's expanding, it's moving further and further. No, it was created in place with the redshift in place, 250 million light years apart, therefore not receding away. Created all in place equals creation. So both men still did not get it. It was still a shot their brain could not comprehend. If we looked through the same telescope 88 years later, nothing would have changed. It's like God was standing in front of the telescope, holding up images, as he does today, in front of the camera. What effect did this observation achieve? Nothing. It was ignored, and the Big Bang became the standard argument as fact. Yes, Lucifer telescope, a perfectly normal name. Yeah. And there it is. It looks like Lucifer, doesn't it? Looks like a child's toy that they play with. Their transformers and things like that. Getting back to the proof of the Big Bang. So astronomers discovered that what they thought was background radiation left over from the imaginary Big Bang was in fact the temperature of the universe, dividing it into cold and hot regions, and then discovered it is a mirror of the Earth. Then it became apparent it was a sphere based on the Earth itself. Got the equinox plane, the dipole, as seen in the line around the universe, dividing into hot and cold. Edwin Hubble was much distressed, as he had proven the Earth was the centre of the universe, and Einstein was wrong about the speed of light. Seven rings, each the same age. The number 250 million light years times 7, or just simply 7 times 250, is 1750 in the Greek concordance, which means wrapped, found in Mark 15:46, found only once. Reiterating the white writing there, 250 million light years apart, but each ring of galaxies are redshifted, indicating by the colour each is faster the further out from the Earth. But if this was created billions of years ago, each ring should be farther out. Because there's still only 7 rings, no matter which way you look at it, and each one should be farther and farther out, but they're not. They're all still the same 250 million light years apart. So, but is not so. This means they were created in place for me, says Yah, to point it out as a creation, with no time to spread out faster and faster. Now the 1750 in the Greek concordance, to enwrap, wrap in, found in Mark 15:46, and he bought fine linen and took him down and wrapped, there's the 1750, him in the linen and laid him in a sepulchre which was hewn out of a rock, and rolled a stone unto the door of the sepulchre. Obviously, as the rings are at the same distance apart, then what we see is how the universe was when it was created just 36,000 years ago. We must expect to see distance is time, but no, it shows 250 million light years created at the same moment. How is it no longer expanding, as the colour of each redshift indicates faster than the ring preceding it? It is in reality a trap for Jewish taught astronomers to fall into the same lunacy taught by universities. No creator, but will forbid Christ, predicted to teach you all things. The magnetic fields of the planets cause their orbits around the Earth. Desperate to maintain the Sun being the heliocentric model of NASA, reported Mars had no magnetic field, nor a magnetic field on Pluto, both a lie. Mars, however, only the southern half of Mars is strongly magnetized. I'll need to begin with a little background. I've talked before about what's called the Martian crustal dichotomy. Stated simply, the dichotomy is Mars' northern hemisphere is low in elevation and flat, while the southern hemisphere is high and rugged. The reason is a result of Mars colliding with the Earth. The water on Mars flowed via the 40 days as it was drawn in to collide with the Earth, and all of its water washed onto the Earth. Mars at 4216 miles wide tells the story. In the Greek concordance from 4215 and a derivative of 5409, meaning river borne, that is, overwhelmed by a stream or carried away of the flood. So again, the Earth sits on the center line of the universe, and the Earth spins on its axis. The Sun, the largest planet, holds by its gravity all of the planets, and this is the solar system. Only the Earth can sit on the center line of the universe, not the Sun. All of the solar system has to move northward to effect a spin for the planets around the Sun and the Sun around the Earth, just as electrons have to spin and have movement to remain intact. Otherwise, the electron collapses into the nucleus and it vanishes. The same way the planets orbit the Sun and the Sun the Earth, and their movement, including that of the Earth, keeps everything in orbital balance, meaning centrifuge and orbit in balance. With my astronomy program, I can view the solar system from above and move Mercury around the Sun and measure how far out from the Sun it is in its 88-day orbit. When I set the Sun, then Mercury, then the Earth in a straight line, the distance between the Sun and Mercury is shown to be pulled away from the Sun by the Earth. In the following screen capture, Mercury has been pulled away from the Sun 2.47 astronomical units. We will see that when Mercury is on the opposite side of the Sun, the arrangement is Mercury, Sun, then the Earth, and the distance from Mercury to the Sun has been pulled in by the combined gravity of the Sun and the Earth, 2.37 astronomical units. The distance Mercury is from the Sun is way out at 0.47 astronomical units. In miles, it's 43,710,000 miles. The gravity of the Sun has been weakened by the planets, in particular the Earth. The distance Mercury is from the Sun in this image, we have Venus blocking the gravity from the Earth, so Mercury is pulled in by the Sun to 0.33 astronomical units, when logic suggests it should be much further away from the Sun. The distance Mercury is from the Sun without the blocking of Venus, the Earth has pulled Mercury away from the Sun from 0.33 to 0.47. So that's 0.14 of an astronomical unit, and that is 13,020,000 miles difference. This proves there are two major gravity sources, the strongest immovable axis of the Earth and the Sun orbiting the Earth, and it the gravity point of all planets on the Sun, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune and Pluto. The tilt of the Earth varies, but this is kept quiet. The solar system causes the tilt as it orbits the Earth, and the variation in the tilt is 2.4 degrees of oscillation. So it varies. The tilt changes. Earth's axial tilt actually oscillates between 22.1 and 24.5 degrees. So that's a difference of 2.4 degrees. The reason for this changing obliquity angle is that Earth's axis also wobbles around itself. This wobble motion is called axial precession, also known as precession of the equinoxes. Mercury speeds around the Sun every 88 Earth days, traveling through space at nearly 112,000 miles per hour or 180,000 kilometers per hour. Faster than any other planet, its oval-shaped orbit is highly elliptical, taking Mercury as close as 29 million miles or 47 million kilometers and as far as 43 million miles or 70 million kilometers from the Sun. Mercury's orbit experiences some of the most bizarre conditions. At least the astronomers admit the strange orbit of Mercury exists, but have no idea it is caused by the Earth sitting on its axis along the center line of the universe, as shown in previous slides. In desperation, back to the Einstein myth and his bent trampoline gravity. What all fail to grasp, says Yah, is the Earth is moving northward. The Sun orbits the Earth, and the planets drawn by the Sun causes the system to orbit behind the Earth, which pulls the Sun, and the Sun pulls the planets, and the Earth cannot move off this axis and is connected to the heavenly realm that created it, which is moving northward. So on the left is the standard Sun-centered solar system, and on the right, the true Earth-centered system. Now, this is Einstein's idea of how planets orbit, like a groove caused by the planets all rolling around the Sun, similar to a trampoline. Sheer lunacy, says Yah. They even have an imaginary satellite taking photographs. And more lunacy. Again, more lunacy. Now, Yah has always said that Einstein was a moron. He admitted the speed of light theory was wrong. He had no idea that the Earth and solar system moves northward. I, as a 2-year-old, when my brother arrived home from school and, quoting Einstein, said, "If we shone a flashlight out in space, the beam would bend and come back and hit him on the back of his head." Theory of relativity. I said Einstein was wrong, and I was a 2-year-old child. Einstein was a Jew. End of story. He said no experiment has ever shown the Earth is moving. And then he goes on, nor has any physical experiment ever proved that the Earth actually is in motion.